Imagine waking up every single morning, feeling completely energized, clear-headed, and confident, knowing that today isn't just another day lost in the crowd, but a real chance to grow, move forward, and finally take control of your life. Sounds incredible, right? But let's be honest for a moment. How often do you actually wake up like this? If you're anything like most people, chances are you're dragging yourself out of bed feeling stuck, confused, or caught in old habits that no longer serve you. Here's the truth. The way you start your morning doesn't just shape the first few minutes. It sets the tone for your entire day, your mindset, and ultimately your life. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Today, we're diving into how you can bring this powerful wisdom into your own mornings, creating simple yet transformative habits that help you master your mind and take charge of your day. If you're here because you want to reclaim your mornings and your life, I've got a small favor. Hit that subscribe button. It really supports the channel and helps spread this message to those who need it most. All right, let's get real. Most of us have a complicated relationship with mornings. I get it. Your bed feels like a warm hug, and the snooze button whispers sweet lies of just 5 more minutes. But here's a hard truth many won't admit. Those early quiet hours before the flood of emails, texts, and daily chaos are absolute game changers. I'm not just saying this to sound motivational. This is reality. Imagine waking up just 1 hour earlier than usual. That 1 hour might feel small or even painful at first, but picture it as a peaceful sanctuary, a private oasis amidst the desert of your busy life. No distractions, no demands. Just you, your thoughts, and the freedom to plan your day, set your intentions, or indulge in something meaningful. A moment that grounds you in wisdom and perspective. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Seneca said, "We suffer more, often in imagination than in reality," reminding us that the dread of waking early is usually worse than the actual act itself. Today on the show, we're diving into the world of economic indicators. These are the numbers that tell us how the economy is doing. Things like GDP, unemployment rates, and consumer confidence. But what do these indicators really mean? How are they calculated? And how should we interpret them? We'll break it all down for you with the help of some experts to make sense of the numbers that shape our world. Not the waking up that's hard. It's the story we tell ourselves about being tired, miserable, or ineffective that holds us back. But when you rise earlier, you shatter that illusion. You prove to yourself that you're stronger than the excuses, and that's where real change begins. Building on the idea that waking up early unlocks a powerful opportunity, let's explore why discipline truly equals freedom. A lesson. The Stoics taught beautifully. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable at first. Growth rarely happens inside our comfort zones. The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung captured this perfectly when he said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That extra hour you carve out in the morning is exactly the moment to look inward, to awaken not only your body, but your deeper self, your true vision, and your authentic purpose. It's when clarity breaks through, insights arise, and tangled problems start to unravel. Your alarm rings and you drag yourself out of bed. What's the very first thing you reach for? Let's be honest, most of us rush straight to the coffee machine, craving that familiar caffeine jolt. We convince ourselves we need it just to feel human again. And hey, I'm not saying coffee is evil. Trust me, I get it. But here's a simple truth that often goes unnoticed. After hours of sleep, your body wakes up dehydrated. Your brain and body have gone without water for a long time, so what you really need first is hydration, not caffeine. Instead of flooding your system immediately with coffee, try starting your day with a tall, refreshing glass of water. Think of it as hitting the reset button on your body, a simple but powerful ritual that sets a tone of clarity and balance for the entire day. Stoic philosophers often emphasize how mastering small, everyday actions unlocks a greater life. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's sharpest minds, reminds us that progress doesn't come by luck or accident. It comes by working on yourself daily. Drinking water first thing in the morning is exactly that. A subtle act of discipline, a gentle signal to your mind and body that you're choosing well-being over old habits. Your brain is fascinatingly made up mostly of water. When dehydrated, its function suffers. Attention wanes, memory weakens, mood dips. Starting your day by replenishing those essential fluids is like giving your mind a gentle but firm wake-up call, preparing you to face whatever lies ahead with sharper focus and steadier emotions. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Simple morning habit, drinking water before coffee, is a perfect example of transforming an unconscious automatic reaction, the sleepy stumble toward the coffee pot, into a conscious, liberating choice. It's about reclaiming control over your impulses, choosing wellness and clarity first, instead of habitually seeking instant gratification. Your morning is sacred, a blank canvas, a fresh start, an open field of possibilities. And yet, most of us sabotage it instantly by grabbing our phones and plunging into the chaos of notifications. That immediate flood of digital input fills your mind with anxiety, distractions, and stress, hijacking your entire day before it even begins. Think about it. One moment, you're lying comfortably, savoring the last bits of restful peace. The next, you're tangled in emails, breaking news alerts and Instagram stories from people you barely remember meeting. So why hand over control so quickly? Building on the idea of maintaining morning clarity and control, let's explore how to fiercely protect your mind from external distractions. Stoicism teaches us to guard our inner peace with determination. Marcus Aurelius famously advised that true power lies within your mind, not in outside events. When you understand this, you discover real strength. Your phone is the gateway through which countless outside events invade your mental sanctuary every morning. By delaying that scroll even just 30 minutes, you reclaim the power to choose your thoughts instead of reacting to whatever the digital world throws at you. Carl Jung also warned us clearly, "We are not what happened to us. We are what we choose to become." Each morning you face a crucial choice. Will you become someone driven by external pressures and distractions, or will you deliberately shape your day around intention and self-awareness? Skipping that morning scroll doesn't just protect your mental state, it cultivates a stronger sense of self. You start the day knowing exactly who's in charge, you, not your feed. Consider how different your morning feels when you trade the screen for a moment of silence or reflection. Perhaps you journal, read a meaningful passage, or simply breathe deeply to gather your thoughts. You might even rediscover forgotten pleasures like savoring the quiet or noticing the early sunlight. You choose presence over endless scrolling. The day unfolds from clarity rather than chaos. There's something oddly powerful about starting your day with a small act of order. Not a big breakthrough or major win, just something simple. something within reach. You wake up, pull the covers tight, fluff the pillows, straighten the sheets, and boom, you've already done something intentional, something complete. You've started the day with structure instead of chaos, and that's not just homemaking, it's mental training. We live in a world that glorifies massive transformations and overlooks the value of tiny, consistent habits. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that greatness isn't found in grand gestures. It's forged in daily discipline, cleanliness, order, focus. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste the rest of your life worrying about what other people think of you." Isn't that what a messy room sometimes reflects? A mind that's distracted, pulled in 10 directions, worried more about the outside world than the world within. Making your bed might sound trivial, but it's the first signal you send to your brain, "I'm in control today. I don't need motivation. I've got momentum." This one small act becomes your first promise kept. And promises kept build trust with yourself, a kind of self-respect that isn't loud, but runs deep. Admiral William McRaven put it bluntly. Continuing from the idea of starting your day with discipline and order, let's explore how one small action, like making your bed, can spark a much bigger change. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Not because your bed alone will revolutionize your life, but because it sets the tone for your entire day. If you can't manage the smallest tasks well, how can you expect to handle the bigger ones? When you build the discipline to complete something, that simple every single day without exception, you'll be surprised at what else you're capable of. The ripple effect is real, and it runs deeper than you think. Carl Jung believed in the symbolic power of our environment. He once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Clutter around you isn't just visual mess. It reflects inner noise, unresolved thoughts, and bottled up emotions. When you clean your space, you'll often find your mind becomes clearer too. Making your bed isn't just about aesthetics. It's psychological alignment. The Stoic philosophers didn't aim for perfection, they aimed for purpose. They started each day by affirming control over their time, their space, and their mindset. Making your bed is a way of beginning your day on your own terms. It's a declaration. I will not be ruled by chaos. I will not let my surroundings dictate my state of mind. I choose discipline, even in the smallest of things. Some mornings it feels like your body is dragging your soul behind it. Heavy limbs, a foggy head, no motivation at all. But the problem isn't laziness or failure. It's that your system is still asleep. Your mind might be awake, but your body hasn't caught up. And until the two are in sync, you're still running on low power. What's the quickest way to activate that connection? Movement. You don't need to crush a workout or sweat through your shirt before breakfast. This isn't about chasing six-pack abs or hitting personal records. It's about one simple thing: waking up your life force. Gentle, intentional movement, even slow movement, is your body's way of saying, "I'm here. I'm ready, let's begin." A few stretches, a short walk around the house, a couple of squats, or some basic yoga poses. That's all it takes to awaken your nervous system, get your blood flowing, and remind your brain that you're not, say, a machine. You're alive. The Stoics valued physical strength not for vanity but for vitality. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly." That includes your energy, your discipline, your sense of control. These are built slowly, consistently, day by day. Morning movement isn't a workout, it's a ritual, a quiet act of self-respect that ripples into your mood, your focus, even your relationships. There's psychology behind this too. Carl Jung believed in the deep connection between body and mind. between what's unconscious and how it expresses itself physically. He said, "The body is merely the visibility of the moi, soul, the psyche. If you're feeling stiff, stuck, or physically numb, what is your psyche trying to tell you? That it's trapped, repressed, exhausted? Move your body, and the mind will often follow, not the other way around." And here's the other part: movement. Resets emotion. Feeling anxious? Move. Stuck? Move. Sad, unmotivated, uninspired? Move. Motion disrupts stagnation. You don't have to be graceful or choreographed. You just have to start. Because once momentum begins, it creates a domino effect. Energy rises and clarity emerges. Building on the idea of starting your day with intention and discipline, let's explore how you can steer your day with clear purpose. Suddenly, you're no longer just going through the motions. You're actively directing your day with resolve. Seneca reminded us that it's not that we have too little time to live, but that we waste much of it. And let's be honest, how many mornings have been wasted scrolling in bed, just lying there waiting to feel like it? Don't wait. Don't negotiate. Just move. Do it before your excuses catch up. There's a moment right before stepping into a cold shower when your brain screams, "Nope, not today." It's in that exact instant when every part of you wants to retreat. That transformation begins. That hesitation, that resistance, that's your comfort zone digging in its heels. But if you've been chasing mental strength, emotional clarity, or even just a sharper start to your morning, here's your entry point: cold water. No filters, no fluff. Just you, your breath, and your will. Now let's get this out of the way. Yes, it sucks at first. It's not supposed to feel good. But that's exactly the point. The Stoics were obsessed with voluntarily facing discomfort, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew something most of us forget: comfort breeds weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In a world built on avoiding discomfort, stepping into a cold shower is a radical declaration that you're choosing to live with intention, courage, and grit. Psychologically, cold exposure jolts you into the present. The shock pulls you out of mental fog and forces you to breathe deeply, focus, and override your instincts to flee. That's neuroplasticity in action. Your brain rewiring itself to handle discomfort with less panic and more poise. If you're feeling stiff, stuck, or physically numb, what is your psyche trying to tell you? That it's trapped, repressed, exhausted? Move your body, and the mind will often follow, not the other way around. And here's the other part: movement. Resets emotion. Feeling anxious? Move. Stuck? Move. Sad, unmotivated, uninspired? Move. Motion disrupts stagnation. You don't have to be graceful or choreographed. You just have to start. Because once momentum begins, it creates a domino effect. Energy rises and clarity emerges. Building on the idea of starting your day with intention and discipline, let's explore how you can steer your day with clear purpose. Suddenly, you're no longer just going through the motions. You're actively directing your day with resolve. Seneca reminded us that it's not that we have too little time to live, but that we waste much of it. And let's be honest, how many mornings have been wasted scrolling in bed, just lying there waiting to feel like it? Don't wait. Don't negotiate. Just move. Do it before your excuses catch up. There's a moment right before stepping into a cold shower when your brain screams, "Nope, not today." It's in that exact instant when every part of you wants to retreat. That transformation begins. That hesitation, that resistance, that's your comfort zone digging in its heels. But if you've been chasing mental strength, emotional clarity, or even just a sharper start to your morning. Here's your entry point: cold water. No filters, no fluff. Just you, your breath, and your will. Now let's get this out of the way. Yes, it sucks at first. It's not supposed to feel good, but that's exactly the point. The Stoics were obsessed with voluntarily facing discomfort, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they knew something most of us forget. Comfort breeds weakness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In a world built on avoiding discomfort, stepping into a cold shower is a radical declaration that you're choosing to live with intention, courage, and grit. Psychologically, cold exposure jolts you into the present. The shock pulls you out of mental fog and forces you to breathe deeply, focus, and override your instincts to flee. That's neuroplasticity in action. Your brain rewiring itself to handle discomfort with less panic and more poise. It isn't about writing something beautiful. It's about emptying the mental junk drawer before the day fills it up again. The Stoics practiced this centuries ago. They wrote letters to themselves, reflections, reminders, warnings. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal we now know as Meditations, never meant to be published or shared, just private, personal notes to keep his principles sharp and his ego in check. In one passage he says, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line might never have existed if he hadn't written it down, if he hadn't processed his challenges with ink and insight. Journaling didn't just help him reflect, it helped him govern an empire with composure. Modern psychology backs this up too. Carl Jung believed the unconscious mind constantly tries to communicate with us, often through symbols, moods, and dreams. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And what better way to bring the unconscious to light than by writing it down? When you journal, you give your inner world a voice. You uncover patterns you didn't know existed, repeating frustrations, buried fears, old stories you've been living by without questioning. Journaling is like having a quiet conversation with the part of you that rarely gets to speak, the part that isn't performing or pleasing, the part that tells the truth. And in that honesty, something shifts. You start seeing your situation more clearly. Decisions feel less overwhelming. You begin to notice what's real and what's just noise. Even on your worst days, your journal is a safe space where you can be angry, anxious, lost, and it still listens, still holds you. On your best days, it becomes a vault of insights and victories you'd forget unless captured in your own words. Seneca wrote, "We should every night call ourselves to an account." He believed self-examination was the root of wisdom. Morning journaling is that same principle in action, except you're not just reviewing the past, you're preparing your mind for the day ahead. There's a strange kind of anxiety that comes not from doing too much, but from not knowing what to do at all. This isn't about writing something beautiful. It's about emptying the mental junk drawer before the day fills it up again. The Stoics practiced this centuries ago. They wrote letters to themselves, reflections, reminders, warnings. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal we now know as Meditations, never meant to be published or shared, just private, personal notes to keep his principles sharp and his ego in check. One passage, he says, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line might never have existed if he hadn't written it down, if he hadn't processed his challenges with ink and insight. Journaling didn't just help him reflect. It helped him govern an empire with composure. Modern psychology backs this up too. Carl Jung believed the unconscious mind constantly tries to communicate with us, often through symbols, moods, and dreams. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And what better way to bring the unconscious to light than by writing it down? When you journal, you give your inner world a voice. You uncover patterns you didn't know existed, repeating frustrations, buried fears, old stories you've been living by without questioning. Journaling is like having a quiet conversation with the part of you that rarely gets to speak, the part that isn't performing or pleasing, the part that tells the truth. And in that honesty, something shifts. You start seeing your situation more clearly. Decisions feel less overwhelming. You begin to notice what's real and what's just noise. Even on your worst days, your journal is a safe space where you can be angry, anxious, lost, and it still listens, still holds you. On your best days, it becomes a vault of insights and victories you'd forget unless captured in your own words. Seneca wrote, "We should every night call ourselves to an account." He believed self-examination was the root of wisdom. Morning journaling is that same principle in action, except you're not just reviewing the past, you're preparing your mind for the day ahead. There's a strange kind of anxiety that comes not from doing too much, but from not knowing what to do at all. First part, you barely notice it's happening. You think you're catching up, but what you're really doing is feeding your mind junk and expecting it to carry you through a meaningful day. Here's the truth. Your mind is hungry the moment you wake up. It craves direction, purpose, clarity. And just like your body performs better when fueled with clean food, your thoughts perform better when fueled with clean content. If you feed your mind noise, you get confusion. If you feed it substance, you get strength. The Stoics knew this long before smartphones existed. They believed the first thoughts of your day should be chosen, not inherited from the world. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." In modern terms, that includes the content you consume. Books, essays, philosophy, podcasts. These are your morning mentors. 10 pages of something that elevates you, grounds you, or even challenges your assumptions will do more for your growth than hours of passive scrolling ever could. And it's not about becoming some rigid intellectual. It's about being intentional. You're choosing what kind of thoughts you want, shaping your decisions. Building on choosing and shaping your morning thoughts. Now let's explore how the emotions and values you want to lead your life are truly formed each morning. What kind of emotions do you want guiding your conversations? What values do you want to steer your life? Whether you realize it or not, every morning, every input you receive is shaping who you are. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you will do." Reading and deliberately feeding your mind is doing something. It's action, not just wishful thinking. Even Marcus Aurelius began each day not with strategy, briefings, or political drama, but with inward reflection, grounded in philosophy. Why? Because he knew before he could lead others, he had to lead himself. And leading yourself starts with the ideas you choose to absorb. This doesn't require a massive lifestyle shift. You don't need to devour an entire book before sunrise. Start small, 10 minutes, a few pages, or a podcast episode that speaks truth into your ear instead of noise. Think of it as tuning your instrument before a performance. You're aligning your thoughts with what matters most before life starts demanding things from you. Some people wake up and stumble straight into their day, half asleep, already reacting to whatever life throws at them. But others, those who seem calm, clear, and centered, start differently. Take a few quiet minutes to see the day before they live it. Not on a screen, not in a planner, but in the theater of their own mind. They close their eyes and picture who they want to be, how they want to move, how they want to respond, not perfectly, but with purpose. And that makes all the difference. Visualization might sound abstract or even woo-woo to some, but it's one of the most grounded, science-backed practices for shaping real results. When you imagine yourself succeeding, actually see it in detail, your brain begins to create the neurological pathways needed to turn that vision into reality. You prime your mind to expect success, to notice opportunities, to filter distractions. It's not magic, it's biology. And when done consistently, it can help rewire your mindset to act in alignment with your goals instead of your fears. Stoicism understood this long before neuroscience caught up. The Stoics practiced a form of mental rehearsal called premeditatio malorum, a reflection on what could go wrong, not to catastrophize but to prepare. But they also believed in contemplating who they wished to become. Epictetus said, "Practice yourself for heaven's sake, in little things and then proceed to greater." Visualization is that practice. You're rehearsing strength, courage, clarity before the test arrives. You're training your inner world so that your outer world doesn't shake you so easily. Athletes like Michael Phelps used visualization daily, not once in a while, not just before a big event. He would mentally rehearse his swim down to the tiniest movement, so when the moment came, his body knew what to do because his mind had already been there. That's what makes this practice so powerful. You're not just thinking positively. You're mentally rehearsing success, building familiarity with the version of yourself that already knows how to win. And this isn't just for athletes. It's for you before that meeting, before that difficult conversation, before any challenge. Building on the practice of mental rehearsal and inner strength, let's take a quiet moment to clearly envision the personal goal that keeps slipping away from your grasp. For that goal, spend 5 calm minutes seeing the outcome you want. Feel it deeply, not just picturing yourself doing the task, but imagining how you stand, how you breathe, how you handle setbacks. Make it vivid and believable. Marcus Aurelius, writing in Meditations, reminded himself daily how he wanted to act and respond, not react impulsively but exercise self-mastery. He didn't leave it to chance. He visualized mastery before the pressure arrived. If that was good enough for the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, perhaps it's good enough for the rest of us. It's easy to forget how much you already have when your attention is constantly pulled toward what's missing. We live in a world that pushes us to chase more success, more recognition, more goals. And in that chase, we often lose sight of what's right in front of us. Gratitude isn't some soft, feel-good concept. It's a discipline, a mental practice, a way of anchoring yourself in reality when everything around you feels like it's spinning. Here's the truth. Your brain is wired to focus on problems. It's a survival instinct. If you don't take control of that focus, it will naturally drift toward what's wrong, what's lacking, what could go wrong. But when you pause just for a moment and bring your awareness to what's good, what's working, what's still here, that's when everything begins to shift. Your mindset changes, your stress settles, your perspective expands. The Stoics knew this long before modern science caught up. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." To him, gratitude wasn't decorative, it was armor, a tool to stay resilient and grounded in a chaotic world. When you choose to be grateful, especially in the face of uncertainty or pressure, you're reclaiming your mental sovereignty. You're proving you don't need perfect conditions to find something worth appreciating. Carl Jung, looking at this from a psychological lens, believed much of our suffering stems from disconnection. disconnection from meaning, from self, and from the present moment. Gratitude acts as a bridge. It reconnects you to the parts of life that matter most. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that process often begins not with some huge breakthrough, but with the quiet realization of how much is already within and around you. Neuroscience supports what the Stoics and philosophers knew instinctively. Practicing gratitude increases dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that enhance mood and focus. It also lowers cortisol, reducing stress and anxiety. Gratitude isn't just emotional, it's biological. It primes your brain to look for what's right instead of endlessly scanning for what's wrong. Even Marcus Aurelius, amidst governing an empire and facing personal hardship, took time for reflection. He reminded himself daily to focus on what was good, useful and true. Not because life was easy, but because clarity was essential. He wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you do not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." That mindset didn't weaken him. It made him steady and capable. Building on the practice of gratitude and focused clarity, now let's explore how you can start your day, not by rushing headlong into your to-do list, but by grounding yourself first. Not with a task, but with the thought. Most people wake up and dive headfirst into their to-do list, trying to outrun the stress before it catches up with them. But what if instead of rushing into the day, you grounded yourself first? Not with a task, but with a thought. Not just any thought, but one sharpened through centuries of hardship, clarity, and lived human experience. Stoic wisdom isn't ancient just for tradition's sake. It's timeless because it works. The beauty of Stoic philosophy lies in its simplicity. It doesn't ask you to escape life's chaos, but to meet it head-on with clarity, discipline, and strength. Often one sentence, one line from Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, held in your mind like a compass, can keep you steady when the world starts spinning. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Let that sink in. The thoughts you carry with you aren't just background noise. They shape who you are becoming. Reflecting on Stoic wisdom each morning helps you deliberately choose those thoughts. You're not just reacting to life, you're preparing for it. It's like putting on emotional armor. When you begin the day by reflecting on a single Stoic idea, you're setting your psychological tone. You're deciding in advance how to respond to setbacks, interruptions, criticism, or uncertainty. Flinching, you move with intention. Instead of spinning in circles, you return to center. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Psychologically, this kind of reflection has deep roots. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of examining our inner landscape daily. He believed that if we fail to consciously reflect, our unconscious mind ends up directing our behavior without us realizing it. He once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Morning reflection, then, isn't just philosophical, it's psychological self-defense. You don't need a long journal entry or a meditation cushion. Just pick a quote, one sentence that speaks to you. Read it. Sit with it. Ask yourself what it really means. Not in some abstract, distant way, but in your life. How does this apply to that meeting you're nervous about? To the relationship you're navigating? To the challenge you've been avoiding? Stoicism isn't meant to stay in books. It's meant to live in your decisions. The more often you do this, the more grounded you become. You start to notice when your mind wants to spiral into drama, when your ego wants to lash out, when your fears want to run the show, and in those moments, you remember the line you started the day with. That simple sentence becomes a quiet force, guiding you back to yourself. There's a kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. It's the weight that builds up when your life is lived entirely indoors, beneath fluorescent lights, behind screens, under pressure. It's when your mind is overstimulated and your body underwhelmed. You're constantly plugged in, constantly reacting, and slowly, almost without noticing, you become disconnected from the world, from your body, from yourself. Building on the awareness and control of your mind, let's now explore a simple yet profound solution to improve your mental state: spending time outdoors. Sometimes the simplest solution isn't more productivity or stimulation, it's stepping outside. It sounds basic, almost too basic to matter, but spending just a few minutes outside, breathing real air, feeling the ground beneath your feet, letting sunlight or even rain touch your skin can shift your entire mental state. It's not just about escaping a room, it's about reconnecting with something ancient, something essential. Because before we had cities, algorithms and calendars, we had seasons, wind, birdsong and soil. We're still wired for that world, even if we don't live in it anymore. The Stoics, for all their intellect, never saw themselves as separate from nature. In fact, their entire philosophy was based on aligning with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Adapt yourself to the life you have been given and truly love the people with whom destiny has surrounded you." That includes the world around you. Nature wasn't just a backdrop to the Stoics, it was a teacher, a reminder that everything changes, everything flows, and everything is connected. Carl Jung took a similar view, though through a psychological lens. He believed modern man suffered not just from trauma, but from a deep disconnection with the natural world. He said, "Natural life is the nourishing soil of the soul. When we lose contact with that soil, literally and metaphorically, we begin to feel ungrounded, anxious, restless. It's no coincidence that a short walk in the woods can calm you more than hours of overthinking ever could. And no, you don't need to go on a weekend retreat in the mountains. Start small. Step outside for 5 minutes in the morning. Feel the cold air or the warmth of the sun. Notice the sky, the trees, the birds, the stillness. It's not about turning it into another task. It's about letting nature remind you of what still exists outside the curated chaos of your schedule. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "Nature loves to hide, but it's not hiding from you. It's always there, waiting, offering stillness, perspective, beauty, and healing." The more time you spend in it, the less reactive you become, the less urgency everything seems to carry, and the more human you start to feel again. There's a reason your mornings feel foggy, slow, or scattered, and it's not just a lack of coffee or motivation. Often it's because you're trying to run a high-performance machine on fumes. We talk a lot about mindset, productivity, and discipline, but forget that your brain is a physical organ. It doesn't run on thoughts alone, it runs on fuel, and the quality of that fuel matters more than we like to admit. Too often, breakfast gets sacrificed at the altar of speed. You're running late, so you skip it entirely, or grab something processed, sugary, quick, and empty. Sure, that might give you a jolt of energy for a while, but then comes the crash, the fog, the irritability, and your day begins to unravel. Not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because your body was never given what it needed to show up fully. Stoics would call this a form of self-negligence. Epictetus reminded us that no man is free who is not master of himself, and that mastery doesn't just apply. Building on caring for both mind and body, let's now explore how starting your day by honoring your body with real nourishment is a form of self-respect in action. Practically speaking, your brain needs certain nutrients to function at its best. Protein to stabilize blood sugar, healthy fats to support focus and hormone regulation, and real foods that digest slowly and provide steady energy. Think eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, nuts, oats, not pastries, sodas, or energy drinks. When you choose whole, intentional foods first thing in the morning, you're not just feeding your body, you're telling your mind, I came to perform today. Carl Jung understood the interconnectedness of body and psyche. He believed the physical and psychological are deeply intertwined. In his view, the body isn't just a vessel, but a mirror. He wrote, "The mind is like the eye, it cannot see itself without reflection. Part of that reflection includes how we treat our physical form. What you feed your body becomes the quality of your thoughts, the steadiness of your emotions, and the clarity of your choices." This isn't about guilt or perfection, it's about awareness. Ask yourself, would you expect a high-performing athlete to go into training without fuel? Would you expect a surgeon to perform with shaky hands and a light head? Then why expect yourself to think clearly, act decisively, or stay grounded when your most basic needs aren't met? Some mornings the hardest battle isn't getting out of bed, but facing the voice inside your own head. That subtle, quiet inner critic that shows up before your feet even touch the floor. The one that whispers doubts, replays yesterday's mistakes, and casts a shadow over your confidence before you've had a chance to prove yourself. It's not loud, but it's persistent, and if you don't counter it, it sets the emotional tone for your entire day. That's why affirmations aren't just positive thinking exercises, they're strategic counterattacks. When done with intention, they're like verbal armor. You're not just saying words, you're rewriting the internal script that's been running on autopilot for years. You're choosing thoughts that align with who you want to become, not who your fears say you are. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As Emperor of Rome, he started his days not with external proclamations, but with inner declarations. In meditations, he reminds himself, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He knew that whatever thoughts you repeatedly speak, repeat, or focus on are the thoughts that color your reality. They shape your behavior, your perception, and eventually your identity. Affirmations are simply a tool for conscious coloring. They take only a few seconds, but their ripples extend into how you speak, act, and show up throughout the day. Saying something like, I control how I respond, or today I choose clarity over chaos, may feel strange at first, but your brain is always listening, even when it's you talking to yourself. Carl Jung, from a psychological perspective, emphasized the power of language in shaping our identity. He once wrote, "Words are animals alive with a will of their own." When you speak words of power, direction, and grounding, you're not just making noise. Building on the power of words and self-awareness, let's explore how you call into existence the person you want to become through your own speech. When you speak, you are not only talking to yourself, but also speaking into your subconscious, reminding it who's truly in charge. This doesn't mean you have to shout affirmations at a mirror or recite cheesy slogans that don't resonate with you. The key is sincerity. Choose words rooted in truth, even if they stretch you. Speak with intention, as if you're planting a seed in the soil of your mind, not just throwing phrases into the wind. And when you say them out loud, not just in your head. Sound has power. Vibration reinforces belief. When your own voice speaks confidence, resolve, or peace, doubt finds it harder to interrupt. Even if your voice shakes, even if it feels awkward, say it anyway. You're not speaking for who you are. Now you're speaking for who you're becoming. Seneca said, "We become brave by doing brave acts." The same is true of confidence. You don't become confident and then speak confidently. You speak confidence, especially when it feels hard, and slowly you become it. Affirmations are one of the simplest, most direct ways to practice that bravery. Daily. You don't need to control the whole day. You just need to own your morning. Because how you begin is how you live. Every small decision, every quiet moment of intention echoes through the rest of your life. Strength, clarity, peace. They're not found, they're practiced. This message spoke to something inside you. There's another video waiting on the screen right now that will take you deeper. Something tells me it's exactly what you need next. Thank you for being a part of life through Stoicism, where we don't chase perfection, we train for presence. Until next time, stay steady, stay grounded, and keep walking the quiet path forward.